Hey everybody, Michael here. Welcome to week one. I apologize. Thank you for your patience. It's been one of those just crazy weeks. Had a crazy cold. It's really started to kind of lighten up today. I'm still feeling kind of, a little bit out of it, but I wanted to make sure to get out some information to all of you so that, we can really get the ball rolling. Chances are many of you have already started down the road uh, towards studying for the certification and have dived into it. So a lot of what I'm going to talk about, I think you can just kind of work into whatever you're working through. So what I kind of want to talk about today is just a little bit about planning your week. Part of that's going to go into breaking down the different exam objectives and really honing in on what you need to cover in a specific week. I also want to talk about how you mix together all of the different mediums and really going on this theme we've talked about of working smarter and not harder. And so, what I like to do when I plan a week is, you start with the plan. You start with what are you looking at? Last week we took a look at the spreadsheet that shows all of the different areas. Chances are, if you're like me, how do we usually start with studying a certification? We start at the top and we move to the bottom. You go to all the major certification providers as far as knowledge and skills and all of that. They all work from front to back. They start in the identities area and they end up in virtual networking and monitoring backup. So chances are that's probably the way that you're going to go through that. So you should be going in this week looking at jumping into Azure Identities and Governance and using the information you learn from the skills assessment to determine what are the areas you really need to focus in this area. One of the things that I like to do, and this might not be popular with a lot of people, part of it is because I got a little bit extra time than most people have to be able to assign to studying and things, is I don't like to say, I'm going to watch this specific video tonight, I'm going to watch this tomorrow night, I'm going to do this. What I like to do is I like to chunk my time because there's a good chance you might jump into a topic and it might take up more time than you think. Say you jump into something, you're looking into managing Azure Active Directory objects, which is the first functional group here. And let's say you get into SSPR, which is self-service password reset. And you're like, wow, that's really cool. I want to learn a little bit more and I need to dive deeper into that. So then you go over to Docs and you check it out in Docs. And then maybe you even jump up into Azure to see, okay, where would I go about configuring this? That might be a chunk of time. And that's a great use of your time because it's allowing you to go through a bunch of different layers. It's allowing you to do that learn. It's allowing you to do some of that practice and embed some of that things by not only going through the video, reading some stuff on it, but also getting that hands-on practice. So I really want you to think about that. Don't get frustrated if you're like, hey, I plan to watch, 3 videos this week and I only got to 2. Well, if you got to 2 videos, but then you got some hands-on practice with it and you got to read some docs, you're all good. So in the grand scheme of things, not getting that extra video in a week isn't going to slow you down. What is going to get slowed you down is if you get really bogged down by thinking that you're behind. So think about that as an idea of just chunking off a time and then going to your list of these are the things that I can do during the time. Hey, I can watch this video. So start watching the video and maybe you get halfway through it, but then you want to practice something from that video. That's perfectly fine. Then come back and you just make a note where you stopped, come back the next chunk of time you have, and then continue. If that's the way you learn, definitely go with it. If you're somebody that you want to finish the entire video and then you want to go to do the hands-on, boom, go do that. You do you. Make sure through this process you're kind of learning how it works best for you to be able to learn those sorts of things. So for my resources, I'm just going to focus on the Pluralsight stuff. If you're using a Cloud Guru, you're using Udemy, any other places, it's going to work a little bit of the same way. So how I would go about this is, okay, I'm going to watch a video. So we see we've got our first one, manage Microsoft Azure Active Directory objects, which we saw was the first functional grouping for us to go into. So I'm just going to, just click in here, expand here, and we see that we've got a couple of different areas. Managing users and groups, devices, and configuring AD resources. Let's say I've got a chunk of time, like say I've got an hour. Chances are what I would do is I would go through these 30 minutes. I like to watch on 1.4 to 1.6 depending on the person. So I'm going to get through the videos a little bit quicker, but I'm also going to take notes through them, and then I might even during the demos bring up my Azure environment and try to play through and try to do the videos on my own. So I'd go through, do my videos, and then after that, chances are maybe I want to do some demos. So that takes me over to docs. So the easiest way to find some cool demos and things for the docs is just put in what the objective is in here and then search docs.microsoft.com, and it's going to bring up all of these different areas. So if we look down here, assign Azure AD roles to users in Azure Active Directory. Takes you right into the documentation, and from here we've got a bunch of quick starts. We see we've got groups and users. You can dive into the concepts here, and then you've got the how-to guides underneath here. So notice here, many of these are the same sort of things that you saw as things you need to know for the exam. Adding and deleting users, changing the profiles, working with passwords, all of those sorts of things. So then you could simply go into one of these and use these as a guide to go through the process and learn one of these tasks. And that's a way I like to go through those, is watch the video, learn some things, practice it, rinse, repeat, and go through all the content and moving through all the content. So that's just a way I like to use. I've talked to a lot of people that works for them. I know other people, they prefer to, go through the entire video. Again, what works for you is going to work for you. And if you have any questions as far as maybe you've been using something and it hasn't really worked for you and you've worked a different way, drop a question in the Trello board. I'll be happy to chat with you on that. So another part that I also like to add into this is I like to add in the test taking piece. And for me, I use the Wiz Labs platform. There's a number of other platforms out there, but I've been using this for a while. I found that it works fairly well. It gets me into the test-taking mindset. The way that I like to do this is not necessarily taking these front to back. What I'll often do is I'll often go in here and I'll start one of these, answer a question, and then stop it. Because what that does is it gives me a completed practice exam, and then I can go into the attempts, and notice here, see this one? I only took 6 because this is one of those that I just simply answered 6 of them, and then I wanted to go and actually see the report. And when you go into the report, it'll list all of the objective domains. So notice here, all of the different areas. So you can dive into, in this case, we're just interested in the stuff for identity and governance because that's the objective domain we're on right now. I can simply go in and choose all of those questions. And then I can go take a look at these questions. And what I like to do is I like to read through the question, and then I like to go look at the answers, see where the answer is right, see where the answer is wrong. One thing nice for a lot of the questions in Wiz Labs, they do give you a link out to the resources of Microsoft. I always like to go and check those. The one thing I will mention is from time to time, I will find an answer that I don't think it's right, and I'll often give them feedback on that when I come across that. So don't use this as the gospel of these are the exact right answers, but use it as a tool for you to get in that test-taking mindset. And in a couple weeks, I'm going to do a video. We're going to talk specifically about test-taking, and we'll use Wiz Labs and some other tools for you to really get into that sort of mindset. So that's really how I kind of go about breaking out my studying during the week, breaking those things down, watching that module, covering a functional group, doing some hands-on related to it, When I've completed the entire OD, then I'll go in and do some review questions. So we took a look at the Whiz Labs. I didn't get time to do this. I was gonna take a picture that show you the setup that I use. That I usually have my desktop that I'm at now, and then I have my iPad that I play my videos on with my AirPods. And then that way I can kind of, I've got the small screen down here where I can look at it, but most of the time I'm just kind of listening, and then I can, take some notes up at the top. And then especially if I'm doing like a demo, it makes it easy to go back and forth between those demos. So when you're working through this, you're going to find what works well for you, and, just really, kind of go with it. And just wanted to kind of reinforce again, you want to get those different levels of information. You want to get that conceptual information, that foundational. That's going to be the documentation, and excuse me, and that's going to be the videos and the other things that you read. Then you want to get that hands-on, because just because we're getting the certification, we want to make sure that we know how to actually do the job. So you want to make sure that you get that hands-on experience. And then along with that, you want to make sure that you get those test-taking skills that go along with that. So I know this video is super short. It's been kind of a crazy week for me. I hope everybody's doing real well. One thing, I'm gonna post something by the end of the week. By Friday, I'm gonna post a little poll out in Trello. I'm taking the week off next week, so what I want to do is I'd like to do a live Q&A, AMA sort of thing, kind of going into week 2, to kind of give people an opportunity to ask some questions, talk about some things. And I'm thinking of either Sunday night this weekend, or on Monday night doing a, just a live AMA where, we can do a question and answer. I can see where everybody's at. So I'll post that out there, see where everybody's at. So hope this video lands pretty well for everybody. Make sure you're just taking a small handful of information you want to work with, and then just purposely working through that, learning, practicing, applying it, rinse, repeat, and I think it'll be super successful. So until next time, take care.